Okay, folks, let's get to my Zoom here. Hold on, why can't I get this to go away? All right, and where is there we go. I thought I stopped sharing. Oh, there we go. Okay. All right, folks, welcome. We are live here. It looks like Facebook, for some reason, Restream is having trouble getting us onto Facebook, but we are on YouTube, and I'll give you the address. Well, if you're watching this, then you already know the address. It's um, Uncle Death 42 on you. I'm sorry, it's Uncle Death 1 on YouTube. And we're also Jupiter Media 42 on Twitch. And I noticed I was looking at it and Restream was having trouble, but that's okay. Um, Hello, good evening, and welcome to the Haven Podcast Power Hour to episode 2. I'm psyched that you guys could join us. And feel free, by the way, in YouTube or even Twitch. Twitch is new to us, so you're going to have to forgive me if I don't know what the heck I'm doing. Um, but we are, if you want to leave us comments and questions, you're more than welcome to, and hopefully I'll be able to check those every once in a while. We've combined all three of my podcasts, in case you didn't know. We've combined Then Is Now podcast, The East Meets the West, and the Cult Movie Lounge into one live monthly streaming show, which you see here, the Haven Podcast Power Hour. We celebrate all things from cult movies to classic television, horror, pop culture, automobile restoration, and the fascinating people who keep those worlds alive. I'm your host, Rigor, and tonight we're stepping into the world of the paranormal. Joining us tonight is author, producer, entertainer, paranormal investigator, convention organizer, and all around ambassador of the strange, Charles F. Rosenay. Charles has spent decades entertaining audiences through books, horror events, Beatles festivals, Dracula tours in Romania, haunted attractions, psychic fairs, paranormal investigations, and conventions celebrating everything mysterious and unexplained. We'll be talking about his brand new book, True Ghost Stories of Connecticut and New England, along with ParaConn 6, Connecticut's original paranormal convention, coming up on Saturday, June 11th in North Haven, Connecticut. Whether you're a lifelong believer, a healthy skeptic, or someone who simply enjoys a good ghost story around a campfire, we've got a fun hour ahead of us. So, ladies and gentlemen, grab your favorite beverage, settle in, and welcome Charles Rosenay to the Haven Podcast Power Hour. Glad to have you here, Charles.
So glad to be back. I don't want to start with a correction, but June 11th passed last month.
I'm
So
sorry,
so let's look forward
July 11th.
to next weekend, next Saturday, July 11th for the ParaConn. Yes, sir.
And I have it written as July, and when I was going through my notes earlier, I read it out loud as June, and I corrected myself, and then I promptly forgot. So thanks for getting it correct.
I think I was transmitting a thought because my birthday was June 10th. I had a party on June 11th. So maybe that was just reaching through the airwaves to you.
Probably, yeah. All right, then. Well, thank you for that. I appreciate it.
Oh,
So Charles, you've worn so many hats over the years. You've been an author, an actor, producer, entertainer, paranormal investigator. What first sparked your fascination with the paranormal?
through the monsters. I wasn't a paranormal guy up until about a dozen, 10 years ago. Prior to that, everything was horror movies. Growing up, it was monster movies because you got a different delineation of the universal favorites and the current stuff. But that was it. There's not a monster or horror movie that comes out that I don't go see in the theater, or if it comes on streaming or whatever. I just still love as much as I did back when I was a little kid going through the TV guide to see when the next Vincent Price movie was on. It still gives me a charge, and I still, what my go-to, the kids say, "Hey, let's watch a comedy." All right, my wife says, "Well, let's watch a rom-com." All right, it's up
Yeah.
to me. If I have control, it goes right to a horror movie. And so as that manifested itself with me, I started doing the Dracula tours to Transylvania in 1998 as a spin-off of the Beatle tours that I did to Liverpool. And I thought, well, what else do I love doing? What else haven't I done that I'd love to do? And it was scare people. It was scaring people, and I was able to open up a haunted attraction, which lasted a nice run. And then I finally sold that. But it was at one of those haunted attractions where someone came up to me and just pitched doing a paranormal event. And I get it. I knew what a paranormal event was, but it wasn't really part of my portfolio. It wasn't part of the things I did. I'd never been on a paranormal investigation. Really, probably the only sites that I'd visited was when I was doing tours. I've done ghost tours to, aside from Romania for the Drac tour, to Hungary, Prague, Czech Republic, Germany, England, Ireland, Scotland, Israel, Cuba, literally like 10 different countries where I did ghost tours and took people to the scariest places that you only read about in books, but never as a paranormal expert, if there's such a thing, never as a paranormal investigator, more as the entertainer who wanted to, have a fun time and bring people to sites as a tour guide. Well, that changed when, when I was introduced to paranormal investigations and paranormal events, and I became part of a team called the Shaman and the Showman, and clearly I was the showman because the other half, the partner, was the real deal. A shaman, an empath, a medium, an exorcist, all of the above. And we had some really just great experiences to the point where I thought, there's got to be a book like this. And I looked around and I thought, well, there's books that tell the history of supposedly haunted places and maybe how they came about, but what the legend might have been at the place. But I never had a scenario or an actual physical book where it told me what happened to you, to me, to another person when they went to these places. That's what I wanted to read about. What actually happened at these places? And I did the research and thought there was no such book. I'm saying, wait, how could there not be? There should be ghost stories of Atlanta, true ghost stories of Atlanta, true ghost stories, every town where the legends are fine, but what actually happened to people in those places was really recorded into book form. And that was, of course, the genesis of my first book, True Ghost Stories of Connecticut. With me being part of this shaman and the showman, we were going to haunted places. We were visiting places that I maybe heard about in the past or never knew about. But the more and more we went, the more and more I stopped being that entertainer, wink, wink. Yeah, this is fun, but you know it's not true. I couldn't be the skeptic. I couldn't be the non-believer because the results and the experiences and the connections we were having just were hitting me in the face too many times that I'm an investigator now. I'm legit. I believe and I know how to use equipment, and I won't do any of that on my own. I don't feel that I'm capable if there's a scenario where an entity needs to be crossed over, or if it needs to communicate beyond superficial what I can do. It's always with a more experienced person. And for the past years, thank goodness, it's been with a gentleman by the name of Thomas Patrick Gormley. 40 years of true crime experience, 40 years of paranormal experience. Him and his other half, they're both shamans, and he co-produces just about everything we do together, and put a few chapters in the new book, which I hopefully will get to if I don't just ramble on forever here.
No, that's fine. That's fine. So the book is a chronicle of your exploits, correct?
Not just mine, because the first book I had very few exploits. I mean, the first book, True Ghost Stories of Connecticut, I went out and literally interviewed or petitioned all these paranormal folks, psychics, people who were in the field, and just general people, who've had experience to write their stories. The criteria was, please, it's got to be only about Connecticut, and it's got to be true. I don't want you to, fluff it up. Don't embellish it. Don't make it more boo scary. Give it to me as it really happened. I'll make sure the grammar's great. I'll put photos to it. I'll make sure your name is spelled right and all that. And the first one was so successful that people at subsequent conventions, at investigations, at ghost hunts, and all things, they'd come up to me and say, "Man, I wish I knew. I would have given you my story." I go, give it to me. There's going to be another book. And I got a lot of great stories, not just from Connecticut, but from Maine, from Massachusetts, from Rhode Island, from New Hampshire, from maybe not Maine, but all over other parts of New England. And I'm thinking, how can I incorporate that into the second volume of True Ghost Stories of Connecticut? I can't call it True Ghost Stories of Connecticut and other parts of New England or other parts of the East Coast. So it's just True Ghost Stories of Connecticut and New England. And,
Right.
and the first book had 30 chapters, two of which I wrote. The new book has 40 chapters with more of my contributions because I've had so many experiences and so many investigations since then. And we're launching it January 11th, not June 11th, although that's what should have been the publishing date, July 11th in Connecticut at the ParaConn, which we're having this Saturday. And I'm really just so excited because not only am I getting to put on a world-class convention with amazing guests, but I'm going to, launch my book there. You know what's really cool? Probably about 20 of the contributors who gave me chapters in the book are going to be at the convention. So people who attend, they can pick up the book and literally get autographs in each chapter of other people's contributions to the same book. It's unheard of. I don't think that's ever, happened at any other event because the book has got so many really amazing contributions from so many writers that in addition to me signing it, which of course we have to do, we're going to get the contributors to sign it too. So it's a really special treat for those attending and I think it's just fun. I just try to make things fun and find ways to one thing network the next thing and it all, mesh together correctly.
Well, that's awesome. That's awesome. We do have a question from a viewer. Mr. Haunted 4831 is asking, is Mr. Haunted in the book?
Ah, is this the Mr. Haunted from Connecticut? Like, because I'm hoping there's not like a lot of Mr. Haunteds throughout, throughout the country. I hope this is Jimmy Pettinino, the Mr. Haunted, who's a special guest, not only at this year, the sixth annual Paracon, but he's been a guest at every single event we've ever done. How's that for a good answer of saying that he's not in the new book because he's too busy putting out his own freaking books?
That's funny. We've got a chat, a comment on Twitch as well. Decreased to Hearthstone 2 said AI viewers stream boo calm. I don't know what that means. But were there any stories that you collected for your book that surprised even you?
Well, what surprised me is that my wife let me put in a story that she didn't let me put in the first book because it happened in our home and my address is out there. I mean, people, she says, I don't want these nuts like you to come around midnight with, with investigative tools and be poking around our backyard trying to break through. And I said, don't worry about it. We're going to put it as told to Charles. So nobody knows that it's my story. You're not going to tell anyone, right?
Right.
Right, yeah, exactly. So that's the one that I think is the surprise in this one. We had a surprise one in the first one, and I don't think I ever told you the story. But when the first one was really done, ready to go to bed, the proofreader goes, "Hey, Charles, where's your story?" And I go, "Well, I kind of commented on Dudley Town and some of the chapters in there. I
Oh.
kind of put in, an extra paragraph or whatever." And then the editor said the same thing. And I go, well, I'm new to this. I don't really have a chapter. And then the publisher said, look, we're not putting it out without your story. I'm like, what am I going to do? This is going to delay it. I got to get a great story. I went to sleep that night and I woke up the next day and I wondered if I just dreamt something because I remembered the Pink Lady of New Haven, a ghost story that happened to me when I was in college. I mean, eons ago, and I'd forgotten this scenario. I'd forgotten this experience that I had with the Pink Lady. And I actually did, I remember had the experience with my friend Ed, who I went to college with, and I looked him up on Facebook. I wrote the article, And I said, Ed, how you been? We haven't spoken in a millennium. Is everything all right? Yeah, yeah, yeah. He goes, what are you writing about? What's going on? He knew that I was reaching out to him for a reason. He thought I was coming to visit the West Coast and then, I needed a place to stay or something. I go, no, Ed, you took me to see the Pink Lady when we were in college. And I wrote about it, but I'm not sure it really happened or if I dreamt that it happened. And he read it and he goes back to me and he said, oh my God, Charles, yes, that happened verbatim, word for word. And I'd forgotten about it too. So, mind you, he and I both had the same paranormal experience and both forgot about it until, like, literally decades later. And so that was the surprise one that I put in my book, the first one, and the more recent one. So I think I'd like to think that my own chapters are the ones that will stand out to me personally. But when I do, like, I do a lot of library appearances where I'll talk about the book, I'll talk about my journey from being a non-believer and a skeptic to being part of a paranormal investigation team and all that, and producing conventions. And I'll always read a chapter from the book, and it's never my own. In the first book, it's an amazing one about a Bridgeport, Connecticut hospital. The new one, I gotta figure out which one because there's so many. There's not one that jumps out. They're all the oh my God, that are jaw-dropping stories. But I gotta figure out and nail down one that I'm gonna read at libraries and I'm gonna use as the stereotypical chapter from the book.
Nice. Nice. Now I have a slight tangent here because it's a question you mentioned offhandedly mentioned. Now don't say anything yet till I tell you my story, but you mentioned Dudleytown.
Yeah.
Now I had read a book and I still have it. I wish I had thought of it. I had thought of it ahead of time. I would have pulled the book out. I think it was called Haunted New England. I ended up contacting the author. Now this was ages ago. This was like shortly after they invented the wheel, and I was in my 20s and a couple of friends and I decided to go to Dudleytown, and we heard the story of it that everybody was a colony, and everybody there died a mysterious death. And when we got there, nothing really happened. You couldn't really go into the woods because it was all private property. And when we got to the library, the lady wouldn't tell us anything. She was
Oh.
just like, shut us out. Well, what can you tell me about what your experience there?
Well, first of all, the person I went with really knew his way around Cornwall and the whole area. So we came around it a back way. We didn't come the normal way because you're right, you're not allowed to. The residents don't want it. As far as they're considered, nobody should ever visit there again. I went there 3 times and then got a cease and desist. But each time, incredible things happen. One time we brought a gal, her name was Tracy Burton from New Jersey, and she came on the paranormal investigation with us because she'd always heard about Dudleytown. She'd been to, you name it, every New Jersey, Pennsylvania, New York, every possible haunted location. And this was the one she'd always wanted to go to. And when she got to the area which becomes the field, that's, the true Dudleytown area, she couldn't go to it. She said, I feel too much of a pressure on I'm afraid I'm gonna have a heart. She was afraid to go any further and just sat out and watched the rest of us walk through. And when you walk in there, I mean, it's like death. There's no squirrels flipping around, there's no sounds of birds or crickets. It's
You
just
can
silence.
And you can see the like the remnants of the basements or the foundations of old houses from the,
Right, the
early
relics
days.
is still there. The story I've gotten is that they were just lunatics, and not only, they were, incest, and they started killing each other, and then finally they all killed themselves, and that all that was left was the relics. But I don't tell history. I don't tell what happened, the legend of it. That, maybe if you're lucky and get to the library and pick up a book, maybe they'll tell you, or a Haunted New England book. I have in the first book 2 or 3 stories of people that had scenarios there, but the one in the new one is just mind blowing because the guy who went with a crew of 3 or 4 cars. Each one of them had different results. Each one of them had a different experience of the same experience. You got to read it. And it's like when he went back, they all met at a bar afterwards or a restaurant, and they told the story. And one said, "Yeah, you were behind me." And he goes, "Behind you? I chickened out. Me and my girlfriend never went in." And he was in Dudleytown talking to his buddy who never went in.
Oh
So
my
things
God.
like that just give me chills. So Dudleytown, when you think about Connecticut and you think about like the haunted places that are taboo and you can't get to, it's up there. And I'm amazed you went, and I wish you did get in, because the story I tell. Is the guy who went with us one of the times was there because his friend was into it, and she was, loving every second of it. This is amazing. And he's looking at his watch and he's like yawning. When is it going to be over? That kind of thing. And all of a sudden, we're all pointing to him. You're like, yeah, why are you pointing to me? Because I'm the only one who's not into this? No, we're pointing to you because your hair is being pulled straight up in
Oh
the
my
air
God.
for no reason. It was an oh my God. We all took pictures of it, showed him, and he couldn't believe it. And he's since come to our Salem paranormal conventions. He's been converted. He now believes. He now believes.
That's
That's
awesome.
one of the few stories that Dudleytown. I thought you were going to give me a story from Maine, but I'm glad you were able to make it to Connecticut. I wish you got inside.
I'm not going to go into it. Yeah, we walked up the hill in Dudleytown. It was a large hill and it took
Yeah.
forever to get to the top. You couldn't go into the woods because no trespassing and all that. And then for some reason we just got an uncomfortable feeling, and that's when we sought out the library and then we left.
Was,
Um,
was the uncomfortable feeling from Dudleytown
yeah,
or
I think.
from the locals' vibes because they're so anti people coming there, and it's
No, it was before we had talked to the locals,
oh
or at
wow.
least the librarian or whatever. Someone, Mr. Haunted 4831 also says they have some Dudleytown stories, so we'll have to have you guys back on again at some point. I mean, I have plenty of stories for this house. We just bought this house 2 years ago. It was built in '93, so it's not that old. And I see stuff sometimes. I have an EMF detector, and I just let it sit there, and it'll just go off for no reason, and it's in the middle of the room, not near anything electrical.
Wow, how
Uh,
old is the house?
1993, so it's not that old. It's weird. Like when we were first moving in, we had a couple of younger people kind of working on some certain things for us, and they were playing their stupid rap music, and they said that the radio would get knocked over or kept shutting off and stuff. And then when I was there by myself getting things set up, I was playing, Frankie Valli and Lawrence Welk and all kinds of stuff that I love. And I got this overwhelming feeling that the house was happy that I was there and that my family and I were moving in.
Well, if I was the ghost there and you were playing and I was hearing hip hop and rap, not only would I knocked it over, I would have tried to break it. But if you were playing Frankie Valli and the Four Seasons, the classic stuff, yeah, I would have been probably dancing on the ceiling for that.
Yeah, yeah. Oh my God. I
Yeah.
mean, we could go on for hours. But I had another question that actually just came to mind. Have you ever been to or even heard of Monson in New Hampshire? Town of
M-O-N,
Monson?
Monson, Monson?
Yeah.
No, but I want to.
Okay, my understanding, I've heard about it years ago and I've been wanting to go there sometime, and maybe I would love to team up with you and bring some cameras and
Yes.
all my equipment and stuff. And it's a ghost town. I don't know the history of it. I haven't had a chance to look into it, but my understanding is that it was a town, and for some reason everybody from there is gone and it's considered a haunted place, and it's been on my radar for a long time. I just haven't had a chance to really devote any time to it.
I've heard of a similar town in Connecticut called Johnson City, I think, and similar, and I'd gotten calls about it, and they've said let's turn it into like a haunted city attraction, like where the whole town is that. And I go, okay, sure, let's do it, and never, nothing ever happened beyond that. The irony of Dudleytown is that hill where the people live, where the residents are. The name of the town is Dark Entry Road,
Oh,
and and the people who put out a cease and desist was the Dark Entry Road Committee. So
that's funny.
it's funny, it's ironic and silly, and there's so many like that. We've recently had a lot of luck in Masonic halls letting us come in. and do investigations, because those are the type of places that definitely shunned this for years and didn't want, outsiders, and didn't want any kind of anything, that's sacrilegious, perhaps, anything that might be demonic, which I don't think it ever is, but certainly nothing paranormal. And we've had a lot of success and luck with not just getting into the Masonic halls, because we won't go to any place we're not welcome and we're not invited, and we can't, maybe raise a little money for their favorite charity and all that. But we've had such amazing scenarios and results at Masonic halls. So I want to pursue a few more of those.
Nice, nice. Yeah, we should definitely team up at some point too. That would be fun because I haven't been on a ghost hunt in a long time.
How
And
far is how far is Monson from Nashua?
I don't know. I'd have to look that up. In fact, I could probably do it real quick here. Let's
I'm going to
see.
send out a plug. There's going to be a convention, the Paranormal Seekers Expo, August 1st in New Hampshire at Nashua. It's a one-day show, August 1st. I'll be the MC there, and I'll have my book, and I'll also be bringing along, a lot of cool stuff. And Mr. Haunted is going to be there, and a lot of really cool guests. So for people who for some reason cannot make it July 11th to Connecticut for the ParaConn. That's the next time we'll be doing a show in New England. And even if you come to ParaConn and have a great time, come August 1st. It's a month later, and we'll see you in Nashua for the Paranormal Seekers Expo.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah, I just looked it up real quick. It says on Google Maps, it says it's the ruins of late 1700s village represented on an archaeological site with recreational options. So apparently a lot of people know about it. Um, but for me, I'm just in southern Maine, right on the New Hampshire border. It's about an hour and 40. That's not bad at all. It's
Let's
down, it's to the west of Nashua, it looks like, towards the Massachusetts border.
Great. Let's put it on the docket for the future. Let's go. We'll do it together.
Absolutely.
Bring a little crew from your area. I'll bring a little crew from our area, and
Yeah.
we'll have fun and hopefully some results.
Yeah. Yeah, that'd be great. I did a ghost hunt once with when I worked at Saugus Cable TV and we had the psychic lady Linnea and we were doing the town hall because it was a day where the town hall was closed, but schools were still in session. And there were two things. One of them was I found something that was backwards in the audio, and I can't remember what that was, but there was another sequence where we were in the main area and we could hear children playing outside. And there were
Wow.
no children playing outside because school was in session.
Wow. Love hearing
So
that.
that was really interesting. So one last question about that, and we should talk about the Paracon, but how do you approach people who are skeptical to begin with?
I don't need to approach them. If someone's skeptical, they're not gonna want to go on a paranormal investigation. They might go to a Paracon because I have a guest, who's a horror guest. Last year we had Butch Patrick, Eddie Munster.
Oh yeah.
This year we've got, as you know, Ari Lehman, who was the first original Jason, who jumps out at the end in Friday the 13th, 1980 original. And we've got James Stokes, who's the more current Jason. So I think our event will appeal to people whether they're, into the paranormal or not, because it's a little more mainstream if you're into horror stuff and all that. And if you're already a believer and you're going there for psychic readings, tarot card readings, whatever it might be, you're already converted. I mean, you already believe. The ones who don't believe, I don't think are going to go to a convention like that, and unless they're accompanying someone else. But if they're accompanying someone else and go on a paranormal investigation with the shaman and the showman with us, I think they're gonna they can't deny the results that we get. The meters, the talking through the equipment, all the stuff that happens, and you can't guarantee that. We try to do 2 nights. We'll always try to do a Friday and a Saturday whenever possible,
Hmm.
because two different groups of people probably have two different energies. One might be a group of people who are like, oh, I can't believe I'm here, and when is it going to be over? We don't usually get that. We usually get repeaters, but I'm just saying that that's a possibility. Whereas the next night, everyone is just so, the intent is right. They're there to have an experience, they're there to have fun, and they're there to hopefully communicate in some way, whether we're leading it or whether they're doing it on their own and breaking off. So yeah, it's a good question, but I don't see us converting someone who doesn't want. I don't want to convert someone who doesn't want to be converted. If that was the way religion was and everything else on the planet, that would be better. We don't have to convert anyone. Let them find things they want to be and let them pursue it on their own.
Right, right. And do you still do the Salem Paracon?
Yes, November 14th.
November. Okay.
We've done that. This will be the fourth or fifth year at Salem State University. And this will
Mhm.
be our last year there because they have sold that section of the college and that building, and they'll no longer be there. Last year was pretty crazy because we not only did our convention during the day, but at night we did a paranormal investigation in the Salem, what is it? The Salem Temple, the demonic temple, the Satanic Temple
Huh.
of Salem. There's a Salem Satanic Temple, and
I
we
did
did a
not know that.
paranormal investigation there at night. It's by the waterfront, so it wasn't exactly downtown. It wasn't exactly by the college, but 20, 25 people after the event. They, we had dinner. We went to the and phew, boy, did we have experiences. I'd been there before. I'd done a presentation there before, and to me, it was, a glorified art gallery because it's an art gallery. It's got a statue. It's got a lot of different rooms and different layers, but you'll read about it in the new book. There was definitely a manifestation that was very serious and needed not one, not two, not three, but four people who were very experienced to just cleanse themselves and the room. It's a
Wow.
very, very intense story what happened there. So if we go back to Salem for the Salem Paracon, hopefully we'll go back to the temple again too and see if we've cleansed it and cleared out, or if there's still some forces there to contend with.
Well, I'm definitely going to have to put that on my calendar because I graduated from there in 93. So that'd
What?
be fun.
Yeah, 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 yeah. November 14th. It's definitely our last convention at the college. We don't know if it's our last convention in Salem. Really, that always depends year to year on attendance. Well, I got to tell you something. The Connecticut show and the Salem show, whether we have 5,000 people or 500 people, to a person, everyone walks away. I'm at the door. I want to say thank you for coming. Glad you had. They all say thank you. We had such a great time. The vibe at the show is so amazing. It's like the vendors are happy to be there. The guests are go out of their way to take photographs with people, to sign autographs. Mr. Haunted is always there, and that brings it to a whole nother level. But if you look at the guest list that we bring, it's a combination of people who we have year after year because they're so popular and people want them there. The Radicals, Lauren and Danny Perez, another example of that. And then there's people who we've never had before, always wanted to have, and are finally bringing them. There's, a want list of people we want to get to, and hopefully as the years go on, we'll get to everybody. But along with all the paranormal guests, and we have like 30, there's about 50 vendors and always two or three now, actors, horror people who, make it a different element to what we've done in the past, and just try to bring more people in to the fold, and more people have a better time.
Nice, nice. Can you go into detail a little bit more about who the guests are going to be?
I have to go online. I don't remember. So no, one stands out is a guy named Ken Gerhard, who is like the cryptozoology guy. When you talk
Okay.
cryptids and you talk Bigfoot and Sasquatch, he's like the and he moved recently to upstate New York. So we were
Hmm.
finally able to get him because in the past he was, a lot of that has to do with, guests will come. Well, will you fly us in? Will you put us up in a hotel? Will you, is there a per diem? So there's a lot of guests we'd like to have. We can't budget for, when you're having
Right.
30, you really have to decide. So Ken finally could do it. Another one is Calvin Von Crush, who's an occult historian, archivist. He's been on, I like to name these people and let people look on the website because they've been on so many shows that if you don't know the name and you look at the face, you'll know exactly who it is. And he's bringing a big display with him. Father Bob Bailey, who's a retired Roman Catholic priest, and now he's in spiritual warfare is his
Oh,
thing.
wow.
Carl Johnson, researcher who's been on Sci-Fi and so many other shows. That's like I have four levels of guests, not as far as quality, not as far as experience, just as far as who was picked, who signed on the first. So I just went on that top row. But I recommend people go paraconn.org, and it's PARACONN. So
Hmm.
even though it's a con as a convention, it's con as in Connecticut, PARACONN.org. And I think you have the notes, all the links below, I hope. If not, they can just remember PARACONN.org. And that'll tell you all the guests that'll be there. And it's from every possible field of anything considered paranormal. And some were disciples of the Warrens, who, like
Oh, wow.
we mentioned, Jimmy, who Mr. Haunted, he was their videographer. He was before there was cameras and you were able to capture everything on your phone. He brought out the cameras and captured a lot of stuff. So a lot of the people, one of our vendors, Jason McLeod, studied under Lorraine, and my partner in the Shaman and the Showman, Thomas Patrick. His life changed when he met Lorraine and became, a student of hers. So a lot of the people have direct connections to the Warrens, and as far as I'm concerned, you think of hypnotism, you think of the Amazing Kreskin, you think of magic, you think of Houdini, you think of paranormal, and you tip your hat. It's the Warrens,
Ed and Lorraine. Yeah.
of course, and
I used
especially.
to
I'm
go ahead.
sorry. No, I was basically going to say, especially to us in New England, but since the Conjuring movies, I mean, the world knows about them now.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
my grandmother used to buy the National Enquirer, and I would always read through it when I was a kid. Now, this is back in the 70s, and there were always articles about the Warrens. I mean, I knew who they were growing up just because of that, and then I was able to, explore further, but that's wild that you have that connection with them.
we threw out. I mean, you kept your monster magazines, you kept your Mad magazines and comics, and we threw out the National Enquirer or whatever, the Examiner. There was a few of those. We
Like the
threw them
Weekly
out.
World News.
Yeah, Weekly World News. Our moms read them. We sneaked them and read the silliness of them. And if there was a Beatles article, I'd clip it out. Monkeys, maybe, Frankie, but anything that was pop culture music, I would clip it out. But we threw it out. I wish you kept every one of those that had the Warrens in them. That would make such a great chronology anthology book of just those outrageous articles
Yeah.
where probably 90% of them were based on truth. But when
Yes.
people read them in the Inquirer, they just thought, oh, this is just, made up fuddy-duddy stuff the same way everything else is. No, no, it wasn't.
Right, right. How has the paranormal community changed over the years, or has it?
I don't know about the community, but I think the perception of it has certainly changed. And I bring this up a lot because, a few not too long ago, if you woke up as a kid and said, Ma, I got an imaginary friend who visits me, or if you said there's something in my closet, something under the bed, mom would give you the smack and say, I don't want to hear about this again. What's wrong with you?
Yeah.
Nowadays, there's no smacking anymore. And mom says, well, wait a second, what are you seeing? And there's a little more interest. The first person who ever turned me on to the paranormal said he slept with the blanket over his head for 21 years. And he would tell his family members and anyone who would listen that he was being visited at night, and he just couldn't, didn't know how to deal with it. And he went to therapy, and the therapist was trying to find ways to. And finally, he took out an XLR camera, captured what he was seeing, showed it to the therapist, and the therapist had to change a life. He said, "I'm going to practice very differently now. If a
Wow.
parent says a kid has, an imaginary friend, I want to know about that friend. I want to know if it's a good friend or a bad friend. I want to, and I think that the perception of paranormal is a much different thing. It's not a curse. It's not, if you have the third eye or a sixth sense, or you're a little more intuitive now, that's a gift. It's a
Yeah.
gift.
Yeah. I mean, I credit Ghost Hunters with sort of getting me really interested in doing it myself because I
Mhm.
used to watch that religiously, even their live Halloween shows and stuff. And then so many other shows came along as a result of that. And Ghost Adventures has blown me away a few times by what they've shown on TV.
Yeah.
So it's out there and it's real. I've experienced it. I mean, we could go on for hours and hours, and I've experienced so many things throughout my life. Um, but this is great. I'm so glad you're doing this. And we went to, if you may recall, my wife and I got a table at the Salem ParaConn a few years ago
Years
now.
ago. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Our friend Colleen Costello was there. She had a booth as well.
Right.
And it's just a great community of people.
Yes.
They're all understanding and open-minded.
Mhm. Yeah, I get calls from vendors who've come year after year to the Salem show, and it's like, "Yeah, yeah, Charles, there's gonna be a lot of people." I go, "I hope so. We always hope so." And they go, "You know what? I don't care. I have such a good time." That's a unique show, and I used to do the Connecticut show the same way, in that the vendors are all in one area in gymnasium, and then the stage is in the same room. So if you really want to listen to every guest while you're vending, while you're doing reading, while you can, you're not going to miss a thing. And I think that's a big part of the charm of the Salem show. A few years ago, rest his soul, we brought in the amazing Kreskin. I don't know if it was the year you were there, and he was our special guest. And he sat and he signed, but he was starting to lose it. He was getting on in age. And his handler said, he can't do many more of these. And it turned out that was his last ever appearance.
Wow.
But at night, we brought him into one of the classrooms where there was a separate admission, and he did his show. And I got to tell you, it was like the light went on, he was in his zone, and he was doing like one after another. And it was so memorable, and it was his last ever performance. So we had the honor. Right before that happened, he I approached him and said, "Would you do the forward for my book?" And he wrote the
Oh,
forward for my first book. And the new book, uh, which again is coming out July 11th at the ParaConn, the forward is done by someone. I don't know. You mentioned Ghost Hunters, you mentioned Ghost Adventures. I don't know if you ever watched any of the British shows, but there was something called Most Haunted. And the main guy that everyone loved there was Richard Felix. And
hmm.
Richard Felix is my co-host when I do my ghost tours to England. And he
Okay.
wrote and he wrote the forward for my new book.
Wow. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. We've got uh I wanted to say on YouTube we've got Mr. Haunted had another comment. He just said Jewett City Vampires. Do you know what that means?
Jewett City Vampires. Well, I'm familiar with
Jewett.
Yep, that's a place in Connecticut. But I'm not
Oh, you're
familiar.
breaking up a little bit.
Oh no,
Okay,
what?
all right, you're back. Can you repeat
Yeah,
that?
yeah. I'm familiar with Jewett City because I've DJ'd there. It's a little town in Connecticut. I'm not familiar with anything connected to vampires, but please send me information on it at info@paranormalconnecticut.com, and I'd love to research it and maybe do an investigation there.
Nice, nice.
Yeah.
We've also got another fan here named Scotty Lums.
Yeah. Hey, Scotty, how are
He
you?
says, "Hey, brother," and then he said, "Jimmy Melonheads." What does that mean?
So there's a place in Connecticut. It's also called, I think, Dracula Drive. There's an area where the melon heads are supposed to have haunted these. These are deformed. I don't know. I don't know how to say it politically correct. But melon heads are not in my book. So if someone has a great personal experience, not a lore, not a legend, not a history, let's get it in the third chapter. I've never explored anywhere where we've come in contact with the melonheads.
Okay. Interesting, interesting. And it's speaking of Dracula, are you still doing the Dracula tours as
Oh,
well?
yes. Since 1978, we go to Transylvania, Romania, 1 week tour, www.dractours.com, dractours.com. And it combines, in 1 week, we combined the history, the legend, the lore, the truth of Vlad Tepes, Vlad the Impaler,
Hmm.
with Bram Stoker's Dracula, with all the fun of, the Count himself, and it comes together, and we do a tour that people just rave about. It's just so special. Every October since 1998.
That's awesome. Do you have any memorable stories from that?
Oh man, do we have time? This is a good one.
Yeah, go
Yeah,
ahead.
yeah.
We got a
All
few
right.
minutes. Yeah.
So this is pre-Charles Paranormal. And I do ghost tours, as I mentioned, to all those different nations, and never had that wow experience. Once we were at a place. Now, when we go, the first night we usually spend in Bucharest, the old city. And I say to the people who are booking my hotels, get me into the oldest, dingiest. We want to be in the spookiest possible 1 star, 2 star hotel you can find. Well, nowadays, there's not such a thing. They've all been renovated. They're all 5 star luxury hotels. So the 1 year while they were going through the changes and while the soccer was going on in Bucharest, there wasn't a lot of places in town to stay. And they said, would you be willing to stay in a resort? And I'm thinking, it doesn't fit the theme, but if I can give my travelers 1 night in a fancy resort, why not? We get to the resort, and you got to cross a little moat to get in there. Interesting. Well, what they didn't tell me is that this was a convent and it was also an insane asylum.
My God.
A resort that has that history. This is perfect. Well, we get in, we check in, we go, we're all unconscious. It was the first night. We just want to sleep, but you got to do a walk around, right? You got to do
Of
an
course.
exploration. So I said, all right, listen, we're going to have a meal, and then we're going to all do that, and then we can go to sleep pretty early. We'll all go to sleep by 10 o'clock. One couple did not join us.
Hmm.
One couple must have either where they were shacking up or they fell asleep. We don't know exactly what, but they didn't join us. And the front desk man told us of all the places we can go. And he goes, well, there's a basement. If the door's open, you can go to the basement. There's a sub basement. It'll be locked, but you can't go there even if it's open, and it won't be open. So it doesn't matter. At which point he goes there and locks it and makes sure it's not locked. And so we do our walk around and everything else. Next morning, we're checking out. Same guy's behind the desk. He says, did you have a nice walk around? Yeah. And the couple comes down and they are well rested. They've had a good night's sleep and they go, oh man, we did such a great night. I go, you slept the whole night? No, no, no. We got up around midnight and we took a walk around and explored on our own. Oh, cool. And I said, we did too. And they go, yeah, did you get to the basement? I go, yeah, I went to the basement. And they go, and what about that sub basement? I go, the one that's locked? No, no, no. It was like one level below the basement. It was really dark. We lit a match and we walked through. And then when we saw the guard, we knew we couldn't be there, so we turned around. And the man behind the desk at check-in goes, "What did the guard look like?" And they said, "Well, we couldn't really see. It was dark, but it looked like he was wearing like an old military outfit." And I don't know because when we turned around to ask him if we can go any further or go back or where we should do, he was gone. So we couldn't even speak to him. And the guy behind the desk says, this is why, in a broken Romanian accent, this is why we locked that. That is the ghost of this place. And he not only haunts it, but he makes sure that it's safe and there's no trouble anywhere. And you encountered him. And this was just, that was a jaw-dropping moment on a Drac tour in Romania, in Bucharest, that had this couple not gone out in the middle of the night, had they not slept, and then we would never have known about it. We would never have heard about it. But those are one of those things that just you never can predict and guess it's going to happen. And then it's like, it gives me a story to tell.
That's awesome. I hate to ask, but I think something's going on here because it interfered with you when the guy said, "What did the guard look like?" And just as you described it,
Oh,
you went all wonky.
the,
Can you just do that part again?
the paranormal is affecting us, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
They were downstairs and they saw this guy dressed in the military, and they just figured he was a guard and turned around, and the front desk man said, "What did he look like?" And they said he was dressed in an old military outfit. I don't know, and they assumed that that's what someone would wear in a Romanian as a security guard. But no, he was sure enough the ghost of this location, and he only prowls that bottom second level sub basement. No one knows why or how. He never comes to any other part of it, and people rarely see him because it's always locked. And it was locked, and they still got in to see him even though it was locked.
Wow,
Yeah,
that's
wow.
crazy. So Scotty Lum says he's got a great story for you. So he'll talk to you this weekend about it. And then another person says, "Hi Charles, it's Batya Sullivan."
Of course. Batya from Cincinnati, who's gone on my Beatle tours and is a wonderful person. And I appreciate that she's listening in tonight. Believe it or not, I know you're a big music guy. I'm doing a Monkees convention in September because it's their 60th anniversary.
Oh
And
wow.
nothing to do with paranormal or horror, whatever. And Bat is flying in for that. So that's very exciting.
Oh, that's awesome. I've saw the Monkees 3 times before Davy Jones died,
So
and
great.
one of them was a free concert on the Boston Common. So
Yeah.
that was really fun.
Yes.
And then I think I saw them twice at Hampton. That was really good. So I got to ask, and we're going to start wrapping up pretty soon, but what is your take on the government releasing all this footage of UAPs and UFOs?
Bring it on. I mean, why, if in fact there's material there that should, why not? What was hidden for? What could be hidden? Why? Disclosure Day, brings up a lot of those theories. And I'm thinking that, unless it was in some way a security threat, there's no reason why it's been kept secret. Release it. Come on. Everyone, release the JFK files if there are any. Put conspiracies to rest, put conspiracies to bed. Let's see the truth. Come on, please.
Right. Well, it used to be that they were afraid that if they told the public that yeah, there's these things in the sky and we don't know what they are, the people would panic. They'd say, "Well, you're supposed to be able to protect us. If you don't know what this is, well, how can you protect us?" But they've softened us. I think I forget what the term is for it. It's not predictive programming, but they've gotten us used to the concept through movies and TV shows of aliens and extraterrestrials visiting with Earth to the point where, yeah, it's no big deal anymore. Just tell us now,
Are
Whereas
you saying we're
40, 50
jaded?
years
We're
ago,
so jaded that it's not a big deal?
yeah,
Yeah, it's true. Right. Maybe 50 years ago, War of the Worlds, Orson Welles, it's a shock. Right. You
right,
agreed. It's not anymore. It's fine. And it's not like in the past 50 years we've been getting these beams from spaceships killing us. So yeah, it's time.
right, right. One other thing, my wife and I, it just occurred to me to mention, my wife and I have had some experiences with what we think is the um what's his name? Oh my God, I can't even think of it. Not Gandhi, but who's the guy that supposedly died in prison? Mandela, the
Oh,
Mandela effect.
Nelson Mandela?
Yeah, the Mandela effect is because those of us, including myself, heard years and years and years ago that he died, and no, he didn't die till after that.
Right.
And the Mandela effect, for those who are watching maybe don't know, it's a change in the timeline. Something like, for example, um, the guy, the Monopoly man, does he have a monocle or not?
I don't think he does.
Okay, because and my wife and I always believed he had a monocle, and many people that we know. If you watch Ace Ventura: When Nature Calls, there's a guy with a monocle, and Ace Ventura refers to him as the Monopoly Man. But when you go back and look at the games, like I had to pull out my game from the 60s, and I'm like, oh my God, he doesn't have a monocle. That's an example of the Mandela effect, or the Berenstain Bears.
Yeah.
They used to be the Bernstein Bears
Right.
when I
Right.
was a kid, but somehow the timeline changed.
Mhm.
And my wife and I had two interesting experiences. We had several, but these two stood out. One is we went for a walk years ago, and her son was on his scooter, and he was way ahead of us, but on the same sidewalk, so we could see him. and we both saw him fall and smash his head on the ground, and we were like horrified. And then we looked at each other and looked back, and he was just tooling around on it. He had never fallen.
Wow.
It was strange. And then recently, and I'm talking like probably around like Mother's Day, we oh no, it was April because it was my son's birthday, and I was going to get him a card, and we were in the store looking at the cards, and I picked up a card off a certain slot, and there were similar ones behind it, the same, there's a bunch of the same ones. I pulled it out, we looked at it, no, we don't want that, and I went to put it back, and we're like, where did it go? And it was moved over to there, and I'm like, how is that possible? And we both confirmed that it was down below. Yet all of a sudden, all the back of the other cards of the same kind were up high, and that to me was, I'm like, the timeline just changed. We just felt it change, you know?
Yeah, there might have been another reality where your son actually, where her son actually fell over. Yeah.
Yes, yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Ooh,
That, and then in our reality, he didn't. It's just there's so many things out there that we
second
can't
time,
explain.
second time in our conversation where I got goosebumps. Yeah.
All right, man. So Charles, why don't you give us your contact info, and then when I get a chance afterwards, I'll throw it onto the show notes on YouTube.
Perfect. So this Saturday, July 11th, at the Clarion Inn Hotel in North Haven, Connecticut, from 11 to 6 p.m. It's ParaConn 6. The website is www.paraconn.org, not .com, paracon.org. After the convention, there's going to be a concert at night just up the block from the convention at the Volo Restaurant and Lounge, where Ari Lehman, our special guest, the first Jason, is going to be doing a concert with his band, appropriately titled First Jason. And they're performing at night with Mourn the Light. We're a Connecticut rock band. That's coming up immediately. A month from now, August 8th and 9th, we didn't even mention the Connecticut Witch Festival and
Oh, geez.
Culture Festival. We do that in Hartford, August 8th and 9th. Website for that is www.ctwitchfest.com. The Salem Show, November 14th, www.salemparacon1n.org. And if you want to come with me to Transylvania, every October, www.dractours.com, DRACTOURS.com. And I know everyone tuning in is going to want not just the first book, but the current one. You can get it on Amazon. It makes sense. Save on shipping. If you want a signed copy, go to the website www.paranormalconnecticut.com. And if you want to see any of my books, I've got a book on the Beatles, on the Turtles, believe it or not. You didn't know
Oh,
that.
wow.
On horror movies and the two ghost story books. Just look up my last name, Rosenay, on Amazon, and all the books will come up. Rosenay, Rosenay. It's also on Facebook, and I don't even know where else. Where you kids post your stuff nowadays.
Right, right. Well, that's awesome, Charles. And folks, you can find me at my articles at Soap Hub and Soap Central, where I write about General Hospital and Days of Our Lives and all the fun soap operas. And got a lot more fun stuff coming up. So just want to thank everyone at home for spending part of your evening with us. We'll be back next month with another fascinating guest and another journey into the world of cult movies, the paranormal, pop culture, horror, cars, whatever strikes our fancy. Until next time, I'm Rigor. Keep it retro, keep it cult, and keep the conversation alive. Buy his book if you can't get to the convention. And that's it. Awesome. Thank you, Charles.
So much. This was awesome.
Thank you. Good night, everybody. I'm going to stop the live stream.